Hi, so this is my project for the final. It's really creepy, I know. Um, but this is actually something that I did a little while ago that I just kind of rehashed into this project. And the basis for this project was always about racism, but I thought that I could apply it to some of the concepts that we learned in the textbook, which there are a few of them. And I think this project was a more nuanced way of looking at racism and how it affects people. I have a list of a couple terms that I wanted to kind of apply to this. The first being code switching, because the basis for this project was essentially through the lens of a person of color kind of putting on a mask to impersonate what it is that we find ideal in our American society. So, that being Eurocentrism, in which white phenotypic features and just white anything is essentially the norm of acting white, performing white, looking white. That is what we idolize, especially in POC cultures in which there's this concept of colorism where lighter skinned individuals are seemed as being of a higher value than the darker skinned individuals. Like, for example, like I am Dominican and I'm the darkest in my family, and not to say that I've endured, prejudice at the hands of my family, but it's definitely something that like people notice first, and it's something that affects all POC like cultures. I've seen it, um, with my friends and stuff like that. Like they definitely have those ideologies that they uphold, where lighter skinned people are seen as physically superior and like more attractive in that case. I also wanted to talk about here was phenotypes and stuff and how we also define race. I've watched this show called Atlanta, and it's a really great show. And one of the many conversations they have in that show is how we define blackness and how we define, what it is to be a person of color. And a lot of it is very phenotypical. And I think it's funny because in this class we also talked about how um, race is made up and it's stuff that has changed and evolved over time. However, it's something that um, it's something that is very phenotypical, in which even if you have, or for example, like I've heard conversations comparing Zendaya and Logic. These are two musicians in which Logic, they're both mixed, but Logic looks more phenotypically white than Zendaya. And of course, although they have both, like they're both mixed, Zendaya is perceived as being black, whereas Logic isn't. Um, but of course, there is that phenotypical thing, and when you look a certain race, you have that race's um, privileges and stuff like that. So I also wanted to apply that here, in which we have the face of a person who looks more of a person of color, but with pale white skin. But the reason it also looks so disturbing is because of that mask motif, in which it's a mask that doesn't fit. And when I was talking about code switching, it's essentially acting white. It is performing to how we performing to how we want people of color to to perform. However, it doesn't feel right because they're not white. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a lot of stuff. Um, I remember when I was making this project, I wanted it to be kind of how we demonize people of color. So the original intention was to have like the face and then teeth, like a mouth on top of the mouth, and then like make it look more demonic. But as I was making it, I was running out of time and I kind of liked the pale white look. So I thought that this would also be a interesting concept. But yeah, it's essentially just a mask that doesn't fit. It's cracking. His face is kind of, you know, being crushed underneath, but he's trying to tape it together or bandage it back together, like up here on the forehead and over here by the temples. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't really want to go for like a more straightforward approach. I thought this was a little bit more creative and one that I actually had a lot of fun doing, and I want to sculpt more, but I left my clay at school, so I'm mad. But that's pretty much it. So, thank you.